Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, students. How are you today? I hope you always are well. Are you ready for today's lesson? Okay, first, let's read the basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Now, I will check your attendance first. Before going into the material, I will give you a picture. And what do you know about the following picture? Yes, this is a Snow White, whereas a story describes a little girl who lives with the seven dwarfs. Okay, then we will discuss the material at this meeting is narrative text. Do any of you know what is narrative text? The narrative text is a fictional story that is made for entertaining the reader. Narrative texts are usually found in narrative tales, folk tales, and other fictional stories. The narrative text consists of sequential events that lead to a climax and finally find a solution. The narrative text aims to entertain the reader or the listener. The narrative text has a generic structure and language features. Generic structure of narrative text. First is orientation. It is about the opening paragraph where the characters of the story are introduced, like person, time, and place. And the second is complication, where the problem in the story developed. And the last is resolution, where the problem in the story are solved. Language features in narrative text. First is using part action verb. The example is climbed, turned, proud, and extract. The second is using specific noun as a pronoun of person, animal in the story. Example, the king, the queen, and extract. The third, using adjective which are for a noun phrase. Example, long black hair, to red apple, and extract. The fourth, using time connectives and conjunction to arrange the event. Example, then, before, after, soon, and extract. The fifth, using adverb and adverbial phrase to show the location of events. Example, here, in the mountain, ever after, and extract. And the sixth, using dialogue to elicit an emotional response from the reader. And the seventh, using past tense. And the last, using the variety of simple, compound, and complex sentence. But first, we will learn to use different techniques than usual. We will use story mapping and roundtable techniques. I will explain how the two techniques work and how we will apply them this time. Story mapping is a method for arranging user stories to create a more holistic view and how they fit into the overall user experience. Story mapping is usually done on a wall or floor using stick notes or index cards and many tapes. Usually, the entire time identify and agrees on the primary steps of the user journey and then assign for stories beneath them. Finally, each story is discussed So, not talk about what a story is, the purpose, and how it fits the overall scheme of things. This is a story mapping graphics organizer where a ladder you will arrange your text into a complete narrative text. Here we will use this technique to practice your reading skills. And the second is roundtable techniques. A roundtable is a learning technique where the students generate written response, solve problems, or contribute to a project. Students take a turn in their team. Hertland expressed that a roundtable is form pairs within the group and take turn with a partner, sharing ideas back and forth. Afterward, the group discussed which ideas were familiar to the pairs and which statements were unique. A roundtable technique can be used for brainstorming, reviewing, and practicing while also serving as a team builder. Students take turns responding to a prompt with one or two words written on a paper before passing it on to the next students. Here we will use this technique to practice your writing skills. This story mapping technique uses a table where students will arrange the text based on the graphic organizer story mapping technique. In our meeting this time, we will learn about reading a narrative text using story mapping. Okay, I will show you a narrative text entitled Snow White. Please read and understand the text. After knowing the narrative text and the structures, now I will give two pieces of the text entitled The Ant and the Dove and the Fox and the Cat. You can choose one of them. After you finish reading the story, now please arrange it based on the graphic organizer that has been prepared. Arrange the text so that it becomes a coherent story. Okay, please represent two people to read the story in the front of the class. Let's identify story mapping elements together. Any opinions or additions from you regarding the story that your friend has read? Or you have a question about this material? Okay, now please make groups, each consisting of 4 people. I will share 2 pictures. The first picture is a bunny and the second picture is a parrot. Please each group to discuss the picture that I have shared before. You can share ideas about the image in turn, from the first member to the last member. Then write your ideas at the paper. Please write your narrative text based on the idea you wrote in the paper. Don't forget to keep compiling the text using generic structures and language features of narrative text. For the next, choose one of the 4 texts that you create before in each group and determine what theme you will decide about the picture. Then write a new narrative text according to the theme that you have agreed on together. Make it as good as possible to read in the front of the class as a representative of each group. After learning how to apply story mapping for reading skills and a roundtable for writing skills, did you experience any difficulties in teaching the two materials or any question? So you need to know that narrative text is a fictional story that is made for entertaining the reader. This text has three generic structures. There are orientation, complication, and resolution. And so have language features. There are using part action verb, using specific noun as a pronoun of a person, animal in the story, using adjective which are for a noun phrase, using time connectives and conjunction to arrange the event, using adverbs and adverbial phrase to show the location of events, using dialogue to elicit an emotional response from the reader, using past tense, and using a variety of simple, compound, and complex sentences. And last, for your assignment, please find other narrative texts and apply story mapping and a roundtable technique to increase your understanding for this material. And for the next meeting, we will discuss the simple past tense. Thank you for following today's lesson until the end. See you at the next meeting and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.